Tier 3, Andy Burnham, how not to negotiate, Labour complaining, including Scumgate, Tier It's Oh So Close, and Steve Hellier, all coming up on today's Political Pie-Eaters podcast. Phew, what a week that was. So after 10 days of to-ing and fro-ing between the government and Andy Burnham, finally the Northwest, or Greater Manchester, not the Northwest, because most of the Northwest is already in Tier 3, but Greater Manchester is in Tier 3, isn't it? I'm looking at it today. It's Thursday when we're recording this, so they're about to go into Tier 3, but for 10 days we had the to-ing and fro-ing between Boris and the government on one side, Andy Burnham on the other side, saying it's not about the money, it's not about the money. Of course it was about the money. It was always about the money. We always knew that. No, it's about taxi drivers and bouncers, he kept saying. He kept saying taxi driving bouncers. I mean, I have no idea why he kept going on about those particular two types of jobs, because everybody's kind of affected it, or most people are affected by it one way or another. And every job is equally as important as the other, because each one has a kind of slot and they all impact each other and everything else. Hospitality has been heavily affected as well, which he mentioned a few times, but not as much as taxi drivers and bouncers. But he never mentioned travel agents or the pilots or the airlines or Manchester Airport, one of the biggest employers in Greater Manchester, one of the biggest airports in Greater Manchester, in the country, and then nothing. I didn't hear him say anything about them, just bouncers and taxi drivers, and it's like, oh my word, change the record, please. But everybody in Greater Manchester knew we were going into Tier 3. We all knew it was coming, and we just got the government and Andy Burnham just arguing who's going to do it. I mean, Boris, it kind of, why are you letting him have 10 days? You're going to Tier 3, but you must do it. No, I'm not doing it. And it's like, everybody's just going, please, just, we know it's coming. And it doesn't really matter who does it. And then it was said, it wasn't about the money, but we're negotiating the money. Then the government started off at 22 million. The Andy Burnham and the 10 Labour leaders wanted 100 million, and they kind of got to 60 million. And then Andy Burnham said, okay, I'll go and tell the other leaders of the Greater Manchester Council. Come back and said, oh no, we want 65 now. No. Final offer by the government. They said, it's 60 million, take it or leave it. And they went, oh no, we want 65. No, it's a take it or leave it deal. This is it. Oh no, we're not going to do it. And then rightly so, the government has to call it a day at some point and say, right, well, okay, we're going to do it. And then Andy Burnham had that big press release and all the cameras on the streets, and he had the little supporters and gang behind him going, hey, Andy, we love you, Andy. And then you had the other two people showing them the phones. Oh, look what the government's doing. Oh, they've just announced when it's coming in. And then the day after it came out that actually I saw it on Sky News with Kay Burley, good old Wigan reporter there, who put it to the government minister that Andy found out on the street. He went, no, he didn't. Yeah, he said he did. How do you know? Because I told him at 2:00. Own goal there, Andy. I mean, I appreciate that he may have been trying to get the best deal and more money and the maximum money out. Okay, so that's any part of negotiation. That's the aim of the game, to get as much money out of the pot as you can. Get that, and you can't necessarily berate him for that. But when somebody says it's the last deal and it's the last offer, take it or leave it deal, then invariably you got to think, actually, just like the mayor for Sheffield did the day after and said, I'm kind of feel forced to do this, but I'm going to have to take the responsible way of doing it, because ultimately this is the maximum I'm going to get. I wanted more, but this is the max I'm going to get. And you think, what a refreshing way of doing it. He knows he's going to struggle with that, but that's the best deal. So for the people that are concerned, he's just going to do it, get into Tier 3 and hopefully get out of the other end as soon as possible. Andy Burnham goes back, and the Labour leaders go back for 10 days, to-ing and fro-ing. And we'd have been through it 10 days, 28 days. So we're always, we're a third through it, had they taken it on day flipping one. So it's just been crazy. And they say it's going to be a different Christmas. Well, we've already had this year's pantomime with that fiasco, haven't we? I mean, that's just absolutely... Everybody just had enough. And everybody knew what was going to happen. And then... yeah, crazy. So if anybody's going to write a book on how not to negotiate, they're going to use Andy Burnham as a classic example of how not to do it. Even people that I know that are supporting through this have said... when they said it was like that, take it or leave it, you really know it's a take it or leave it deal. And now you've got Labour complaining about the government have said, okay, we're going to put the money back on the table, but Andy Burnham doesn't want it, so we're going to distribute it a different way, i.e. via the councils themselves. And Labour's complaining about how they're being treated. But yet you've got the deputy Labour leader shouting scum from the front benches of Parliament, and the Labour lot complain about how they're being treated. Really? And that's your deputy leader shouting scum. I mean, which gutter did you find her in? Because that's disgusting language to use in Parliament. And I get that she may hate the other side, and I get she may not agree with the policies, and there might be clashes of personalities and everything else. But everybody knows you can't be using that kind of language in the Houses of Parliament there. It does shocking kind of behaviour. And if Labour... And Lisa and Andy I've seen on the TV as well complaining how they're being treated by the government. Well, you better get down to Wigan Town Hall, because you should see how the opposition has been treated for years down there. And it's a bit of karma coming right back at you if this is how the Tories are treating you, because this is how you treat others. So maybe a taste of your own medicines will give you a pause there, just to... maybe you need a pause and think, well, actually, we've been treating them like this, so we can't complain at them treating us like this when we treat them like that. It's just, yeah, hypocrites. But then they are just hypocrites, aren't they? I mean, we've got Steve Hellier, still a Labour councillor on £30,000 a year. We're going to come on to that later. But Labour just are hypocrites, complaining about how they're being treated, but yet they treat people disgustingly on the opposition benches, including trying to sack one of them illegally and using £500,000 worth of taxpayers' money. So, yeah, shocking. And then... So we've got the presidential election coming up. When is it? In just short of 2 weeks' time. And they all say Trump's an idiot and he's a lunatic and everything else. Some of the stuff he puts out, you go, yeah, I can see why you say that. You know, definitely evidence suggests not a full shilling, shall we say. But then you look at the polls and they're neck and neck, or Biden just winning a few. And you think, if he's an idiot and if he's such an imbecile and everything else that you call him, but you're only neck and neck or just beating him, surely that should say volumes that people over there have just had enough of the political establishment. You know, it really is. So after Trump got elected, you think the Democrats would say, well, actually, Joe Public has had enough and they want to change. They want a different type of person. They don't want career politicians or whoever or whatever. And they rethink through. But they push this guy back out who's been there before as vice president. And they go, well, we're neck and neck with this idiot. Well, you're neck and neck with an idiot. That doesn't say much about you. In all fairness, that does not say much about you. And then you look at the whole picture, you've got to feel sorry. I've got many friends that are Americans and live over there and everything else. And you've got to feel sorry for the biggest country and biggest nation in the world. And the best two people that they can put from either side are them two. You think, damned if you're doing, damned if you don't, are you? It's absolutely crazy that the choices and the two largest political parties over there think they're the best chances and options people should have. God, it kind of pulls your hair out kind of moment when it's like that, isn't it? But, you know, we're going to find out. They all said Hillary Clinton was going to win it last time, then Trump just pulled it out the bag. We'll see what happens in just under 2 weeks' time. It'll be interesting no matter what happens there, I guess. So as called Labour hypocrites before, didn't I? And I said I'd come back to the Steve Hellier thing. So here we are, I don't know, 2 months down the line when I expose Steve Hellier, the Labour councillor that lives nowhere near Tyldesley Ward, where he represents, nowhere near Wigan, nowhere near Greater Manchester, nowhere near in the northwest. He lived on the other side of the country, so we're led to believe. Could be anywhere in the world. Nobody knows. Nobody's seen him. He's not admitted it. We just know he's, well, the town hall says he's on the other side of the country. Well, okay, well, got to take your word for it. But regardless of it, Labour still back him. Labour still pay him the extra allowance there for chair of planning, chair of licensing and regulations. £30,000 of Wigan taxpayers' money he takes, and then Wigan taxpayers get upset about it. They're calling him online. There's been stuff in the local press about it as well, and Labour still do nothing about it. And it just kind of goes to show that they're giving the people the two fingers, saying we don't care and we're just going to rip you off, because that's what they're doing. They're ripping people off by not having local representatives and whatever else representing the local communities. And we've had Labour councillors in Ireland, other parts of the country, and even Australia as well. And you've got to say, this is the norm for Labour now. When you're going to vote for somebody and it's Labour, you don't know where they're going to be. They're going to say they live in Wigan, but you have no idea. They've now got form for living all over the world, and we've got this guy who's still on it. Labour will not remove the whip off him, will not stop his extra allowance, will pay him additional money, and the Tories back him up as well, so they must be in agreement with it. Why? Why are you in agreement with Labour on this despicable behaviour and policy? Because it should be called out, and I'm going to call that out continuously till he goes. Now, the guy says he's going to go at end of office, which is 3 years' time. However, because of elections, all-out elections in 2 years' time, it'll be 2 years. So he thinks he can live nowhere near the northwest, Greater Manchester, Wigan or Tyldesley and still take £30,000 worth of taxpayers' money, and Labour and Tory think that's okay. So when it comes to next year's May's election, people, just think about that. Just when they're giving you, remember that Labour and the Tories are giving you the two fingers. And just vote accordingly is what I would say there, because Labour just hoping I'm going to go quiet about it, and then maybe they'll just do it quietly and let it slip under. No, I'm going to bang on about it every month, every week, and every day when I do stuff and when I speak to people, because more and more times I'm speaking to people in Standish, Shevington, Wigan, and throughout the borough. Everybody, I've not heard about that, and then they look into it and go, you're right. So more and more people. So the longer you do it, the more people are going to know about it, and you're going to be called out for it, and you're going to be judged next May about it. So if you think I'm going to go away and keep quiet about it, you're sorely mistaken. And just like when you thought they'd get away with the Donna Hall thing and that whole episode, and I go on about that £500,000 that's still not been paid. No, you're going to be called out and you're going to be challenged and you're going to be held to account to it. So you keep hanging on to your little councillor that lives nowhere near. And I hear from a good couple of sources in Labour, this Labour councillor, he did it without telling anybody, and even Labour didn't even know about it. So I'm led to believe. How true that is, I don't know. But if that is true, he's just giving them the bird, and they go, okay, he treats us this way, and we're going to just let him get away with it. Why? Because Gareth Ferrers calls him out, and we don't want him to win about it. Really? Are you that petty? Because that's what it is. But hey, keep on to it, because it's only going to make you look worse and worse and weak. So maybe we should do like a day calendar or whatever. Labour and Tory support this guy that lives somewhere out there in the world and taking £30,000 of Wigan taxpayers' money, and he's going to keep taking it by his own admissions until his end of day. And Labour and Tory say that's okay. Despicable. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up there. Had enough, a bit of a rant on that one. So yeah, hopefully you like this podcast, and hopefully we don't get any more pantomimes anytime soon. So stay safe in tier 3 or whatever lockdown we're going to be in next, and see you all soon.